Oh, can you guys hear me? All right. So, welcome everyone to the first Tab Tuesday live stream. Today, the topic is going to be how to get started in VR game development. So, this isn't like a tutorial. I'm not going to get super into it and be like, this is how you download and this is how you install it. What this is I'm going to show you the resources that I use, how I learned how to develop for VR, and where you can go to get access to these tools, find good tutorials. If we can have time to get into it, I'll discuss, good places to find assets, how you can make your game look really good without spending like a ton of money. And then just some general tips for success, how you can make your game stand out. To hopefully, get attention of publishers, investors, people like that. Let's see. All right, people actually showed up to watch this. I'm excited. All right, so first thing, just a couple general get this out of the way thing. So if you are developing, you're probably doing it with the Quest, with your computer and everything. So the first thing you're gonna want to do is get all set up for side quest, which will involve putting your Quest in developer mode. Plenty of tutorials on how to do that. If you're not sure, just Google how to load things on SideQuest. And SideQuest is a great tool because you'll be able to go on here and very easily load games directly onto the quest that you build. So it's just going to make your life a whole lot easier. You don't have to use like command lines or anything complicated like that. Um, so what I use personally for developing games is Unity. The two big engines out there right now for VR. I don't know much about Godot if you can even use that for VR, but is Unity and Unreal. I personally like Unity, not because it's necessarily a better engine. I don't want to, get into that like that kind of dispute. But at least with Unity, there's a lot more resources online available, a lot more tutorials. More people use it, especially indie developers. So if you have something that you can't figure out how to do that you need to learn, or you need a solution to, chances are you can punch into Google and find a great answer and move on with your life. The Unity team themselves are also pretty responsive and helpful. Um, I know with Unreal, when you are trying to Google stuff online, a lot of things don't have answers for it out there. The other thing with Unreal is you either code with it. There's something called blueprints, which is like a visual kind of coding thing where you connect nodes. Some people like it. I personally find it more confusing. Or you have to code with C. I'm sorry, C++, which is a lot more complicated than what you use in Unity. Which in Unity you use C sharp, which is a lot more streamlined, a lot easier to use programming language. the syntax is a lot shorter compared to C++. So I personally just think it's easy. Will make your lives easier. Um, yeah, he said he totally uses would use Unreal if you could use it in C sharp mode. It has a lot of cool features. There are a lot of things in Unreal that come with the program that in Unity you do have to spend a little bit of money on. Um, One way though that you can get a lot of things in Unity without having to spend a lot of money is Humble Bundle, which I love for everything. But if you ever go on here, you just keep an eye on the bundles, the software ones. There's always stuff on here. Look, game dev, goodness. I think this is just a bunch of UI stuff. Um, yeah, UI stuff, mostly for 2D mobile games. But if you are building a UI, it's on there. You get tons of stuff on here for like $30, and it's like $1,000 worth of assets. So a couple graphics bundles. I like to use because I'm too broke to buy Photoshop, and I don't like pirating software, so I use Corel Paint Shop Pro, which I got that and a bunch of other software on Humble Bundle for next to nothing. And it does, at least just from a game developer standpoint, everything I would need Photoshop to do, I could do in Paint Shop Pro. So um, yeah, definitely keep an eye on Humble Bundle. Pick up stuff wherever you can. They have lesson packs on here, asset packs, everything. Um, and yeah, so where you're going to want to get started, beyond developing for VR, you are going to need some just like kind of generic, VR or just regular developing skills programming. There's a lot of places you can go. You can go on YouTube. One thing about going on YouTube though is that part of the YouTubers thing is that they got to sell you on their channel, and they got to put their personality in there, so they're there telling jokes and have intros and like, subscribe, and that's fine all and stuff if you're trying to do something small. But if you're actually trying to initially get started and learn, it's a lot of stuff to try to learn, while someone is trying to sell you on their channel and tell you jokes and entertain you. Silence my phone. And so what I would recommend is using paid tutorials, which you don't really have to spend a ton of money. The one that I really like to get started, and I actually go back to this sometimes if I do need to learn like a basic concept of just how to do it, is Zenva Academy, which is like zenva.com or academy.zenva.com. And this one, I picked it up for free with the Humble Bundle, like a few lessons. But I guess they have some kind of service now. First month is $1. I think it's like 10 or $15 after that. But their lessons are really good. They're short. They get right to the point, and you actually learn what you need to learn. Some of their coding isn't like the optimum perfect way you'd want to do it. Like some of it's not the most like optimized. There's more efficient ways of doing it, but their coding is usually like the easiest way to do it. So you can learn how to do something really quick, and then you can kind of learn the optimized way afterwards. But this is a really good way to learn the basics of C sharp, the basics of Unity, how to move around the scene, how to copy objects. Um, Affinity Photo. I haven't used Affinity Photo, but all this software is basically, I don't know, it's not the same. I'm sure there's differences, but whatever you like to use, that's you get to use it. I just use Paint Shop Pro because I picked up my Humble Bundle and it works. I like it. Has a lot of good filters. 3 to 6 months general flat screen gaming. You could. I spent. Well, it's hard for me to explain because I've been game developing since I was about 10, but I use kind of things like RPG Maker and Click and Play. I only started with Unity a few years ago, um, but because I did have that kind of former game dev experience, I kind of picked it up easily. So I did do a couple flat games. I made a really simple one called Super Mochi Ball, where you play as my dog Mochi that's over there on the bed, and you roll a little ball around and have to get the ball to like a goal. So yeah, that's definitely good. I would start with a flat screen and just do some simple stuff just so you learn the engine. The good thing about learning in flat, you'll soon learn, is every time you're developing in VR, you got to put the headset on, click start up, take it up, it goes into VR, and it's just a pain to test stuff. It's really easy. It's a lot easier if you are making something in the flat. You can just grab your gamepad or your mouse and keyboard and just test stuff real quick without having to get up and down and get in. Yeah, Photoshop is a ripoff, but yeah, you don't have to like get up and down and stuff when you're developing in VR. I mean, when you're developing for flat, whereas when you're in developing for VR, depending on the type of game you're making, you're gonna have to be putting that headset on and off constantly. So, um, definitely practice and learn concepts in the flat because it's just gonna make your life easier. Um, so this one, is one that I like, Zenva Academy. There's a few other ones out there. I haven't used them personally, but I think I got good reviews. I would say, and you like it, go for it. Um, but yeah, paid lessons, if you're just spending $10, $15, it's going to help you and get you along a lot faster than trying to be cheap on that. Um, and like I said, it's not that much. Once you do kind of have the basics down, the other place that I would recommend for actually getting started with VR is Udemy. And this is, if you haven't used it, it's a website that basically just has lessons on here. You can go on here and learn stuff. Um, and it's kind of weird how they do the pricing. Like the lessons are like $100, and then like every like other week they're on sale for like $10. So if you see a lesson you want at some crazy price, just wait a week or so, it'll go on there. But let me show you the lessons that I like. There's a developer named Tefik, which he is on Twitter as well. He does some YouTube videos, but he has really good lessons on here. Uh, let's see. So if you just search VR development, will probably be the first ones that come up. But he has a couple on here. His name is Tevik. It's spelled Tevfik, and he's a really cool guy too. Really easy to talk to. He saw my password. It was lots of stars. Yeah, I know I use asterisks for all my passwords. It's just tons of asterisks. But yeah, he's got one on here. He just kind of walks you through the basics of it. And if you look at this, look this each lesson's like 10. The longest one's like 18 minutes. So I think this whole thing altogether is like what, like 6 hours. That's not that much. You can get through this in a day, like a weekend. And when you're through with this, you'll have the basics. You'll be able to make a simple VR escape room, or you can make skee ball. You can make all kinds of simple physics based things. Other more like complex, and you start adding like RPG features, score systems. Takes a little bit more programming, but all that stuff from the Zenva Academy will get you into that. He also has like a multiplayer one on here, which I kind of dabble around with a little bit. I haven't gone through too much, but it's got good reviews, and everything on here he's done is great. So um, I'm sure this tutorial is good too. And then once you do get started, you're gonna want to get started on. You're gonna use a framework, and what that'll be, it'll be kind of a set of what are called prefabs. And in Unity, a prefab is something that's already made. You can just kind of drag it into the screen. So you'll be making your own prefabs. For instance, in this car game, you guys see me working on like this little dude right here. He's a prefab, so we can just copy them. So when you get the frameworks, they'll come with prefabs that are like entire player controllers. So you can actually just drag that into the scene and hit play, and you can already hop into that scene in VR. And then you just gotta add the interactions, things like that. So if you didn't want to, if you had like a cool like 3D scene, you just want to look in VR, you can just drag a prefab in there and look it in VR immediately. And that is one of the things that Tefik goes over, like in his tutorials, how to get started on those. Um, and so when okay. Sorry, I was looking at the chat. I got all mixed up. But so when you are looking at frameworks, there are several that are available. There's paid ones and there's free ones. And I am usually an advocate of paid assets. They're usually better. They'll save you tons of time, and I will say that now that the paid ones are better. But I remember when I first started, I didn't want to spend any money on development, or very little. As I got more into it, I'm like, no matter what hobby I had, whether it's playing video games, um, you know, skateboarding or surfing, any hobby I've been gonna spend money on. So even if game development is just a hobby, spend money on it. Why not? But if you don't want to spend money on it when you start, you don't have to. You can get around it. So there's a few frameworks. I'm gonna start off with the ones that I don't like, just so I can tell you about them and you can know why I don't like them. um, the Oculus one, you're still gonna have to download this and install it, but I wouldn't use the framework. Like you have to install it so you can use other toolkits with it on top of it. But the Oculus, besides it being like the plugins and stuff, it does come with a framework, so you can just drag in their prefab and you can use their grabbables and their interactive strips, and that's great if you're only targeting the Quest, or where they call it like a Rift build, but like basically ones you run on PC with the Oculus app that only work with PC. That only work with the like the Rift or the Quest via link. Um, if you do want to build for Steam VR and you made it with this Oculus, then you're going to have to tear everything apart, redo your player and every interaction with the different framework because it just doesn't play well with Steam VR. Um, and then on top of that, there's some other weird issues, like for instance, when you rotate and teleport. Um, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna touch on that. How you can totally make an entire game with only assets. You do need a little bit of stuff to connect your assets together. Um, so that may take like a little bit of programming. I'll get into that later, like what you can buy. And you can buy stuff that's not made for VR, but you can adapt it to VR. But yeah, a lot of these kits, these what they call frameworks, they will come with yeah, basically everything. Depending on how complete they are, a lot of them will come with stuff where you can make a whole simple game without programming. So yeah, I'll definitely touch on that. Um, doesn't sound yeah, and I'll touch on that too. Why it's good at first, but I can mention Samurai Slaughterhouse. I used an AI asset at first that I purchased. I ended up having to tear it apart, and now I'm just reprogramming my AI from scratch. But there are a lot of ones that are tools that are just all around great, and they don't do it too much. But what they do is like really good, so you can kind of integrate that. Um, so besides the Oculus one, there's the Steam VR one, which this one I kind of like as far as a framework itself. I kind of like how the interactables and things are set up. A little bit more in the Oculus one. The Oculus one has a weird issue where if you walk away from the center of the room and you hit rotate, instead of rotating around yourself, you rotate around the center, so you're going like this. And same thing if you teleport, it teleports like basically the whole room, so it changes the spot that you're in. The Steam VR one doesn't have those problems, but the thing with Steam VR is if you build it with this, it has the opposite problem as the Oculus one. If you want to end up building for Quest, you're gonna have to tear apart your whole player controller, all your interactions, redo them again with a different framework. So that one I wouldn't recommend either. There is a good free one that a lot of people like called Vrtk, and I think this is the one Tefik actually goes into in his tutorials. He originally did the Oculus one, and then he switched to another one. He kind of changed them up because he updates his tutorials from time to time. But yeah, this VRTK one, I'll be honest, I haven't used it personally, but it's free, and just looking at it, it looks like it has, a lot of cool stuff that you can use, and it is set up to where you let's say, oh yeah, it is set up to where it works with Steam and with Oculus, so you can switch back and forth between the two. And a lot of people use this. A lot of people love it and like it, and it's free. If you look at it, it's got like a bow and arrow stuff. I think it's got a few gun things. So depending what you want to make, you could probably just download it and make it with this. And it shows just basic shapes on here, but you can easily find models of other things. If we have time, which I think we will, only about 20 minutes in, I can touch on that, where you can go to find like cheap and free models to use for game development. Um, and now there are a couple paid ones, and I do think that they are a lot better. This is one I haven't used personally, but I've heard good things about it. Looking at the video, it has a lot of cool things. It has like guns with the different kinds of loading. It has, I think it has a bow and arrow. It has jetpacks in the hand, which is cool. I haven't seen other packs that come with that. Um, so a lot of people like this one. The one I really like though is called Hurricane VR, and this is what I'm using in Samurai Slaughterhouse. This one has. Let me pull it up. So it has like bows, arrows, guns, um, and like it has like the grip where you can slide your hands. It has what else does it have? Oh, it has the stabbing. When you every time in Samurai Slaughterhouse where you stick a sword into like the wall or something, that's all this framework. Like this does the stabbing. It's probably gonna show it right now. It takes a little bit of more work to get it to work with like moving around AIs, but overall, it's a great framework. There's lots of cool stuff. It works for Quest and Steam. You can switch back and forth easily. Yeah, it has an auto hand that has procedural grabbing, which is great. And that's like where you see in Half-Life Alyx, where like if you grab something and you like grab it from different angles, like the hand will change. It has that in here, and it also has something like that set up for when you want to make save poses. So it makes it really quick if you want to save like hand poses and grips. And yeah, it has like the simple button reloading and the full manual reloading, right? To pull out clips and pull the little things on the side and stuff. I don't know enough about guns to explain it, but it has like the things that those really advanced like VR gun games have, and it has nearly everything you would need. Really, I mean, not the AI. That's the only thing that's not part of this, and that is a little more complicated. But mostly, everything you want to do is right here. Um, so that's why I like Hurricane VR. It integrates with something called Final IK, which is what I use to do the full body IK. Makes it really easy to use. Um, and then, oh yeah, Auto Hand. I know that's another one you could plug in. Like that's one of those things where I was saying it's like an individual plug and you can throw it in. Let's see, how's the progress with the Oculus PC VR? Okay, so someone's asking about the Oculus PC VR version. I gotta figure out how to compile that. I was trying to do it the other day and it just was not going through. But hopefully this weekend I'll be able to look at it, um, or at least fix the angle on it. The Steam one is right, because what it is if you're using virtual desktop, it's going through Steam VR on Samurai Slaughterhouse. It's correct, but if you're using the Oculus Link and it's using like the Oculus thing, like your hands are like this. So that's what I'm trying to get fixed, but hopefully soon. Um, oh, and then the other one, Hexabody. This is from the same people I made Hurricane VR. I haven't used this yet, but if you want like a really phallic looking player, but like a physics one that can like jump around. I guess it's like Boneworks. I haven't really played Boneworks too much, so I don't know what that means. But it's really physics based. You can climb around and use a crowbar to climb up and stuff like that. This integrates with Hurricane VR, so that's along the lines of something you're looking to make. This is something you may you may want to buy with it. And these do go on sale once in a while. I say like the price on them still isn't too bad for what you get, but um, if you are wanting to save money, eventually it'll probably be on sale for $30. It's 60 right now. Did they still? Yeah, they totally stole the Saints and Sinners backpack. It's great. Like, and now I was able to steal a Saints and Sinners backpack because they stole it for me. But yeah, they have like a backpack system like that, which you can easily customize and put big, small slots and weird side slots if you want. And you can put holsters. You can put things on the shoulders. You can, I mean, really anything you can imagine you'd want to be able to do in VR. This framework does it for you. It's great. Like, um, it looked like a lot of the stuff that VRTK one that was free did it too, but this one it just looks great. Like if you look at the other one, the VR framework, whatever the other paid one, like it looks nice, but it just doesn't look as nice as this does. This one, the developer's constantly working on it. He's really helpful. One thing I will say about this one is the documentation could use a lot more help, but um, you don't like VR. I like VR. Is it VR IK? I use a Final IK. Is not what I use. Is I don't know what VR IK is. It's probably something different. But I use Final IK and it has a VR thing in it. And I don't know. I think it's good. I haven't used too much other things, but I thought it was easy to set up and the results worked well. Um, but yeah, the Hurricane one, like I was saying, the documentation isn't great, but the developer is really active on Discord, answers questions and stuff. Cool guy. Um, trying to get him on the Samurai Slaughterhouse team actually to help him with development, but he's kind of like busy right now, so maybe later. Um, so yeah, this one is my personal favorite framework. It's what I'm using for Samurai Slaughterhouse. I'll probably use for most of my future games. I'm not using it in this car game just because it's giving me a little bit of trouble with moving it in the car because it uses something called the character controller. But as long as you're not using vehicles, it's great. There probably is a way to adapt it to work with vehicles well, but I just haven't figured it out yet. Um, let's see. So next, I'll go ahead, and this kind of goes back to Bearded Huevo's question about can you just build stuff with assets? Should you just build stuff with assets? And I'd say Yeah, you could do most with assets. You gotta there's like plus and minuses to using templates. So one of the things, for instance, was the Invector AI, and this has a 5 out of 5 star rating. It probably should have like a 4 out of 5. It's still pretty good, but it has a lot of issues. Um, this is great because you can just like drag and drop it in there, and just have a working AI, and it has like guns, bombs, like melee weapons. It has all kinds of great stuff with it. Um, The only thing is like the detection on it, like the AI detection, how they see and detect other like AIs in the player, is really weird. It fires random rays, which is not very efficient. Uses a lot of processing power, and you can lower it, but then it has a hard time like seeing people. Like it'll miss them a lot of times. I replaced it in Samurai Slaughterhouse. I replaced their detection system with my own, but because I was using my own detection system and not theirs, it has, I don't know, I can't figure it out because the way they programmed it is so convoluted and asinine with all these weird layers on it that I kind of plugged into it and got it to work, but 1 out of 3 times the AI will, like, even though my system detects the player, like it won't communicate. The Invector can't pick it up correctly. So that's why if you ever played Samurai Slaughterhouse and the AI runs up and isn't attacking you, just running around circles around you, can't tell that you're an actual enemy until you hit him, or sometimes you hit him and he still doesn't know. That's because I took this shortcut and used the AI template, which was great for getting things done easily. When I made that driving game, I was able to put AI in there initially, just using that first city driver. I used this just to put AI in there real quick that you can run over. I ended up programming new ones from scratch because they were so simple. It was easy to do. But yeah, so the plus is, you can get stuff in, get it out quickly, get prototypes out, which is great because when you're making VR games, you're gonna want to use to get like prototypes out to make sure things are fun. And then Magma is asking what I use instead of Raise. So what I use, um, this is actually something that I use called Sensor Toolkit, which is, this is one of the purchase assets that is not something that's going to cause you problems later. I would say, like, if you want to use this in your game, this is great to build on. Usually anything that's an asset that does like a single simple task, like in this one it is detection, is great to use and then build your AI like around it, rather than trying to pull something that's already complete and done, and then if you do need to change it, you need to like tear it apart. It gets complicated. But basically, the way this sensor toolkit works is pretty cool, and this is something you can even set up without needing like that paid asset, the sensor toolkit. But basically, you have this collider, which if you don't have the sensor toolkit, makes these cool like FOV colliders. But if you don't have that, you can even just use like a box collider, or make a polygon that has like the collider the shape you want. But basically, this is like the vision collider, and when something enters into it, like for instance the player's car, um, the AI will see that car because the car will trigger this. This is what's called a trigger. So anytime something goes into it, it picks that up. So it picks up that that car is in there, and then once it triggers it, then it fires a ray to check to see if it can see it. And the reason for that is, if there's a wall in the middle, and then the character walks right here, the trigger might be big enough that the character still walks into the trigger, but because there's a wall in the way, you don't want the AI to see him, so the wall will block that ray. And then it'll occasionally fire a ray, I think like 2 or 3 times a second. I think you could change the quality on that to double check to see, if maybe now he is that thing that walked into the trigger is now in sight. So it's basically, it still uses rays, but it uses the trigger to know when to shoot rays and where to shoot them at, which is way more efficient. Firing, 1 or 2 rays per second, it doesn't take that much processing power, but firing like 50 rays all over the place uses a bunch of processing power, and it's not even that precise. It sucks. So yeah, this is better. This is a much better system. Um, so yeah, if you are, these are the kind of purchase assets that you definitely want to use. Um, this one, the Invector, this is one that's good for getting stuff out, for doing prototyping, just slapping stuff together. If you're just starting out and making AI just way beyond you, this is a great place to get it started. If you are doing a deep, complex, long-term project, though, probably not a great place to start because you'll probably end up like me, tearing it to pieces and pulling it out. Um, so those are like kind of the plus and minuses for templates. And sometimes things are just perfect. They're great the way they are. For this, for instance, for this car driving game, like all the car driving physics are from this one asset called Eddie's vehicle controller. And this one is great. I had to make a few adjustments just to get the cars like stable enough to be in VR. But for the most part, I cannot read it. But for the most part, this Eddie's vehicle controller was like already perfect out of the box. So when you're looking for assets, especially something like this, if you're going to be using it a lot, read the reviews on it. And this too, like this one was a $60 asset. I got it in a humble bundle. Um, And when I got it in the Humble Bundle, it just kind of sat there for a long time until I decided to use it. So that's the other thing about Humble Bundle. I would say pick up all the game development ones you can because maybe one day you'll want to use them. But like, let's say you want to make a car driving game and you didn't want to spend $60, you can easily go on here and find like free ones. I know the Unity basic assets come with one, and there's probably so like there's tons of free ones too. And hit and miss. Maybe the free ones are good, maybe they're not. A lot of times I'll find that they're good, but they're missing like a lot of features. So that's why like the expensive ones, the paid ones, cost more. Is it hard to learn game AI? The game I wouldn't say it's hard, but it is a lot of work. There's a lot of different aspects to it, because you do have to account for every type of situation. And it's one of those things where you can just keep getting deeper and deeper into it, keep adding more and more layers. Um, Apparently, Eddie's asset is like 10 years old. Yeah, I mean that's the older the assets are usually better because they keep updating them. They keep getting better. Um, but yeah, I mean I wouldn't be surprised that Eddie's physics, vehicle physics is super old. Um, so yeah, I'm using that Eddie's and I love it. So with when you're looking for assets, look at reviews, look at ratings, and if it's something that's going to be key to your game, make sure you don't cheap out on it. And then, unless you're prototyping, like I said, if you're prototyping, pull the free assets, try it out just to get something kind of working, see if it's fun, and always make sure what you're doing is fun and it looks cool, and it's going to be good before moving forward. Um, and then, so in addition to finding like frameworks and things like that to help with programming, you can also get models on here on the Unity store, which I think are the Unity Asset Store. I would say is great for your first stop that you want to go to look for assets. The reason for that is anything on the Unity Asset Store is meant to be used in Unity, which means it's rigged right. It usually has humanoid rigs, has scripts that work in Unity. So even if you're just getting a model, like let's say you want to get this car, this is actually a free car. You can find lots of really great stuff for free on here. You can buy stuff, get it through Humble Bundle. But yeah, you can find lots of nice assets. You can look at the reviews, see if it's good, what people say. If they're like, oh my god, why does it have so many polygons? It doesn't need to have this many. Then maybe stay away from that one. But yeah, you can find a lot of good stuff on here, paid or free. Like if you're starting out, you can find tons of free stuff, frameworks, and everything. Um, Besides the Unity Asset Store, if you are looking to fill in like character models and things like that, a couple places that I like are Sketchfab is one that you can go on here, and you could find models paid and free. There's a lot of cool free ones. If you're making fan games, you can find like a lot of models on here. You can find like a lot of the guns from like Destiny and Halo, things like that. Um, look, there's like a free gun. I don't know if it's from a game or something, but it looks pretty cool. You can find all kinds of free models, characters. Um, Sometimes on here, like it's not game ready. So you look at something, you're like, oh wow, this is a nice looking pig. Like I want it in my game. Well, for it to get in your game, it has to be what's called rigged, so it can be animated. And if you go down here, you can look at like details on it. I would almost bet this isn't rigged just because of the position it's in. Um, Whoops. Oh, here you go. So you click more model information. Rig geometries, no, which means the only thing that this could be in your game is like a statue that's standing still. And sometimes you get things, even if they are rigged, they have way too many polygons or their rig is crap. Um, So it's just you can just have all kinds of issues when you're on here. So you just gotta look at reviews. Usually, like I said, usually paid ones are better. If they are in like a T pose like this, then it's not too bad if they're not rigged. Because you can use what's called Mixamo, which is a like a free program. Adobe bought it, but it was originally its own thing. Um, and you can actually go on here to get free characters and animations, and you can go on here as well to actually rig your characters. So you can put a character model in here, and it'll go ahead and make it into like a rigged model that can have animations on it. Doesn't always work well. Sometimes it does. Um, and then Magma is asking where do I get textures from? I'll touch on that in a bit. Real quick, another place to get models from is CG Trader. And with this, it's even more so. I would say that stuff's not always game ready on here. You can find a lot of models on here for really cheap. Some are expensive. Um, but the quality of these is just all over the place. Like there might be a really nice looking model for $2 and it'll say it's rigged, and you look at the rig and it has like 5 bones, and you're like, what am I gonna do with this rig? So, um, yeah, the quality definitely varies on here, but if you need anything static, you're good. When you're looking at stuff, look at like the triangles and the polygons. A lot of stuff on here is meant to be 3D printed, so they didn't care that they're not efficient. Usually, if you see something with an Unreal and like Unity logo, it's probably good for the engine. But at the same time, it's probably also on the Unity Asset Store. So before buying stuff from websites like this, just check the Unity Asset Store. It'll come with the Unity Asset Pack. It just makes it way easier to import into Unity and get your get stuff in there, get your models in and working well and updated. Um, Everything in CG Trader is not bad. It's I've gotten some good stuff on here, like my Samurai Shiba, like the Shiba Inu Samurai that I'm using. I found on here. I don't know if I can find it. He has a little samurai armor. That was good. It wasn't high poly at all. It wasn't rigged though, so I had to hire someone off Fiverr to like rig it for me. I actually don't see it on here anymore. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff on here that's meant for 3D printing. So just like look what you're buying. Don't just say, "Oh, this looks cool. I want it in my game," and pick it up. You got to look at what it actually is. Um, As far as textures, you can buy textures. They come in pretty big packs. I've gotten a few good packs from Humble Bundle that were Unity Asset Store assets. So you can find some pretty good libraries on there, especially during the sales. Another good place, depending what kind of textures you want. For this, I've been actually looking for like low quality textures that I want it to look like a PS1 game. A lot of these are actually pictures of buildings that I reduced the resolution on. Um, but I think the water that I used, where's the water texture? The water texture that I use, maybe even these walls. I don't remember where I got things from what, but stuff like this. If you're making like an indie type game, retro stuff, Opengameart.org is a place where it's all like public domain, like open stuff, and most of the licenses are public domain, so you can still use them in commercial games, and it's all free. They have it's a good place for like textures and basic things if you're making like UI and you need like icons, things like that. Decent place for pixels too. I'm sorry, pixel art. Um, they do have instead I could show you on here. You can actually specifically look for like textures, and they do have 3D models on here too. Not as much though. It's somewhat limited. If you need a random sound effect filled in, this place is also good to find like sound effects. But yeah, depending on what you're looking for, they have textures on here, high resolution, low res. Um, when I'm making in my games, what I like to do, because I do buy the assets, I'll buy the character assets. But the problem you kind of run into when you do that is everything looks like it came from different artists, from different sources. So it looks all janky. It looks like nothing belongs together. So the way you can get past that, and it also, it's just a great thing to do in general, is to pick a good visual style for your game. Decide what you want your game to look like, including like color palettes. I know Samurai Slaughterhouse is black and white mostly, reduced color palette. But even if you're, have a normal color game, just kind of pick like a color scheme for your lighting. Everything is supposed to look orangish. Just kind of give orangish glow to everything. Just to try and make sure everything fits together. doing stuff like cell shading, or like really stylized stuff. There's like one that kind of makes everything look like a painting. Doing things like that is a good way to give your game a good cohesive visual style. And if you have a strong stylization like that, then you can pull things from different sources. Like you can have a giant mutant looking rabbit and a normal looking human, but if they're both done in the same like cell shaded cartoon style, then they can look like they belong in the game together. Um, and then some of my other tips when you're making VR games or you're getting started on it, try to do something new. Like if you can, like there's a lot of, I mean, there's still good zombie shooting games out there. There's still good sci-fi games where you shoot robots, but it's just been done like a ton of times. Um, if you try to come up with something that hasn't been done before, even if it's been done in flat but just never done in VR, that's just a great way to get attention on what you're doing, especially if it's like a beloved classic game and nothing's been done like it in VR. For instance, Carmageddon, you know, is what I'm bringing here. That's just a great way to get attention. And again, picking a good visual style is another good way to get eyes on your game. When you are, working on it, it's kind of a thing out there where they say like, oh, don't worry about making it look good. Don't worry about like polishing it. Just get it working. But making things look good is actually really important, especially in VR. A lot of my games, when I started with it, I didn't even start with the gameplay. I just started making a scene, and I'm like, let me see if this will look cool in VR. And if it does, that's like a good place to start from. And when you're posting videos, putting things out there, it doesn't the stuff you put in there doesn't have to be polished, doesn't have to be finalized, but still make it look nice. Like if you can put things in there called particle effects, which is explosions or blood splatter, things like that. And even if it's not going to be your final one that ends up in the project, just put them in there anyways, just because it's going to make the game look more fun. It's going to make it look good. Those fall under the things what's called user feedback, which is basically whenever the user does something, like something happens. So, even if the user just presses a button, if it plays a cool sound and there's a cool effect that happens, pushing that button is going to feel fun. So it's the same thing, every time you kill an enemy, you want a good sound, you want a good, screen effect, something like that. You want the player to feel, when they hit someone, you want them to go, yeah, like, you want to trigger those reward zones. See, yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. If you've played a good flat game and you think this just needs to be in VR, then just go for it. And when you're developing in VR, you can also think of ways to like things that couldn't be done in the flat before that can now be done in VR. For instance, with Samurai Slaughterhouse, you have like the critical hit of their heart, where if you stab them through the heart, that's like a one hit kill. Um, whereas with other flat games, there was never anything with that much precision. There is Bushido Blade, it's kind of like that, but not quite the same. So with VR, you are able to, take it to that next level, give them that precision. So any way you can like take advantage of that, definitely use it. Um, hey, Skiva's in here too. Hey, how's it going? Oh yeah, like I don't know if you guys seen Skiva's billboard in here. Here we go. There's the Between Realities billboard, pixelated up close, but from far away, you can tell what it is. Um, So yeah, I think those were like my basic hints. I'll try to put all the websites I talked on up on links, so you guys can see some stuff. Uh, see where I got my stuff from, so you can download it yourself and get started. But yeah, and then my biggest tip too is just don't wait to get started. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm researching, I'm doing research, I'm learning. It's like, don't just download Unity. Open up one of those tutorials I showed you, and just start making stuff. You'll play around with it. You'll learn as you go along. Um, when you are making your game, at one point you probably are going to want to scrap your whole game and start from scratch. I actually did that with Samurai Slaughterhouse. I had a first prototype, and after I made it, I was like, man, there's so much stuff I wish I did differently. So I just scrapped it all and restarted from scratch. And even though the first prototype took me like I think like 5 months, the new version only took me like 2 weeks, I think. So, don't be afraid to scrap your work and restart over if you imported too much assets or it's just a whole mess. Like a lot of the work is just figuring things out. If you do have to go back and redo it again, it's gonna be just way faster the second time, and way better too, way more efficient. Your scripts aren't going to be all weird and confusing because there weren't things that are like, oh no, I want to do this differently, or you want to build on this other system that ends up getting changed later. Oh, thanks. Yeah, and 64. So, yeah, did you guys have any other questions, like specifically, that I didn't go over? Yeah, I'll start pulling up Samurai Slaughterhouse. I know some people wanted some behind the scenes stuff on that, so I'll kind of pop that up real quick for anyone to look at. Then, oh, and you know what? This project right here, just to let you guys know, I just got it to a point where I'm pretty happy with it. You got like broken glass, got a good amount of billboards, good amount. Well, the pedestrians, there's only two kinds right now, so I'm gonna add some more variety to that, um, like more skins, and also like female pedestrians, so you can run over men and women. um, But I got the performance going really well on the Quest 2. I've been testing it, and I was having fun until like my Quest battery died. And yeah, it's looking great. It's fun. I'm going to be adding more pedestrian types, some more detail buildings, more like props you can break, more sound effects. But I think it's pretty fun right now, so I'm going to be throwing this up on Patreon in a bit. Actually, right after I get off the stream, I'll probably zip it up. Ignore that. My Samurai Slaughterhouse, I'm like reprogramming the AI right now and tearing it apart, so it just has tons of error codes. But I'll show you guys a little bit of what I've been working on. The Black Fall Guys creepy vibes. It's supposed to be like PS1 inspired, like old games did that, including Carmageddon. They did that too. That's right. Been playing that to try to copy their visual style. Which, if you haven't played Carmageddon, it's a great game. You can actually get it free on like the Android phone. It's an old DOS game. Let's see, I think there's anything else important or cool I can show you guys. Oh, that's coming up. We can look at what's on sale at the Unity Asset Store right now. There's like a pretty good sale going on. See if there's any assets I would recommend. I really have 20 notifications on Twitter. What happened? Okay. See, so there's two bundles: the Daring bundle and the Roaring bundle. Let's see. Got a tank maker. That's pretty fun. You could probably make a game just out of that. And that's only 20 bucks for these three items. Just throw a VR camera in there and you probably got a game. Enemy AI, if you need something to get started. I haven't tried this one. Maybe it's good. It's got 5 stars, so 23 ratings is probably decent. And these are just like visual effects stuff. Rocky environment. I have tons of trees and rocks. I wouldn't need this, but if you're just building your library, this could be something to include. Icon. Same thing. I have so many icons. Um, see, got a character controller. I do like this little dragon. This Suryun content or asset creator. I really like their stuff. I use a lot of it in Samurai Slaughterhouse. Does it have physical steering with the VR controllers? It does not have physical steering with the VR controllers. Um, if the Eddie's one didn't come with that, and I haven't gotten that deep into it. I'll probably add it eventually. But if you did want to add it in yourself, the Eddie's vehicle pack, it does have something for an external input plugin, so you can send your own input in, and then you would just use what's called a rotational driver. But basically, depending on what like framework you're using, you would just put a grabbable object, and based on its rotation, you would plug that value into the controller in order to send it in. Um, I kind of like playing with the triggers and like the analog stick because I'm so used to playing racing games like that. But I'm sure someone's gonna want the motion with the actual steering, so I'll probably add it in. All right, yeah, have fun. I'm probably just gonna be on for just like 10 more minutes. I didn't want to go over an hour with this, but uh, show you guys some real quick behind the scenes Samurai Slaughterhouse stuff. So here's some stuff you guys probably haven't seen too much of yet. Actually, I haven't put out a build with it. It was originally going to be the starting area of the game, but I'm not going to work it in differently because the dojo. I wanted like to have a starting area that was like a tutorial that can show everyone everything, how to do stuff. Um, but this was originally going to be the player's starting room. You kind of start in here, and then you go outside, and then here's like the deck of the ship. And I actually got some cool uh, ocean-based enemies that are going to be spawning up here. So I'm thinking eventually what I'm going to do is you're going to be able to go on the ship and like travel. It's like a different place. It was originally going to be the opening. And you're going to then like after you're done with this opening here, you're going to end up on the mainland. But now it's going to be ordered differently. But we got some cool monsters. We got this crab, a bunch of different skins. We got a this is not a water monster, but no one's seen this in the game yet. We got this tree. I still got to redo his texture so that he, it's like the faded color, so he fits in better. We got the little octopus. You guys have probably seen videos of. He's pretty cute. So yeah, I got the shellfish, which he's kind of fun. I made it so his shell is like impenetrable, so you have to kind of poke him like inside of the his face, and then starfish, and then the whale boss is like, oh, that's not the whale boss. What did I do? All right. And here's the whale boss. Is like this big giant whale, which is he's freaking awesome. Let me show you some of his animations. Thanks, Kiva. Hopefully this isn't too boring. I always want to do game dev streams. I feel like they're gonna be like boring. But let's see. Where's his attack? So many attacks. Yeah, it's crazy. He like smashes the floor. It looks super intimidating in VR too. Like it's gonna be kind of like Dark Souls, like where like he's gonna kind of slam his hand down and like stays down, and then you run up and stab him. So these assets, I don't do them myself. I don't model. I actually buy these from the asset store, and then I'll go ahead and I take the textures into like Paint Shop Pro, and I'll go ahead and run several filters on them, mess around with the levels. I create like a separate layer to kind of give it like a strong outline, and then everything else underneath I'll like fade it. So I'll go ahead and go through like these different steps to get it looking good, and then also I use like a material called I was using one called shoot, what was it called? Real Tune, and it works pretty good. But I ended up switching to another one called Flat Kit, which is just a lot more efficient for VR. So use different materials, and that was like I said, like that's what the good thing about having like a strong visual style of your game is that you can take assets from different places and modify them and make it look like they all fit. Um, Whereas if your thing was just looking realistic, it was just normal, like fully colored, no tune style, no like special color scheme. If you start bringing in assets from different places, they're not going to look like they fit in. It's going to look like a smorgasbord of different stuff was just slammed in there. And even if you do have a different smorgasbord of different crazy stuff just smashed in there, you don't want it to look like that's what's going on. You want it to look like the assets are supposed to, be there. Which is, if you look at mine, they don't fit together at all. But because they're stylized, it looks like they do. Like this polar bear is, a pretty realistic anthropomorphic looking polar bear, not super cartoony, at least not the original model. And then whereas this girl over here with her big personality is very stylized and cartoony. But because they have like kind of a similar color scheme, they're cell shaded, they look like they belong in the same game. So that's how you get away with that. You use a strong visual style. Oh, you guys can check out the Ninja Turtle too. He's not ready yet though, unfortunately. This is one of those assets that I bought and it was just not rigged correctly at all. I don't know, it looks even worse now than last time I pulled it out. But yeah, this is one that I bought off of it for like $2 off of a CG Trader, and it was like a Ninja Turtle, and it wasn't like really rigged. It had like four bones in it, and like there was so many holes in the mesh that just didn't work out, so I don't think it's gonna make it into the game. But that's why it's always best to best to get your assets from the Unity asset store if you can. There still will probably be an anthropomorphic turtle enemy. I got even if it's not that model, I'll find one. Or I'm getting funding soon. It looks like so good funding from Oculus. So I'll probably be able to actually have models made and have custom stuff, which will be nice. Um, but yeah, I mean, for the meanwhile, definitely some people look down on purchasing assets, but it can be done and it can be done well. You gotta put in that little bit of extra effort to make everything look like it fits together. Um, or be really good at picking the assets. I guess if you pick assets that look like they fit together from the first place, you'll also be in good shape. Let's see, got anything else cool I can show you guys? Let's see. I think that's about it. So yeah, if you guys have any, I mean, my last piece of advice to you is just if you're thinking about getting into VR game development, just go out and do it. Don't let it intimidate you. Programming is not as hard as you think. It's basically just telling the computer what to do. The syntax, just how do you type it, is a little funny, but you can easily find resources online. Um, so yeah, just get out there. Download Unity or Unreal if that's what you want. You can find help from that. With Unreal as well. It is just a lot easier to get help with Unity. But yeah, get out there, download it. Start throwing things into VR. Start just drag a VR controller into a cool scene. Um, if you do just want to look at cool scenes in VR, like shoot Sketchfab. What I'm actually working on right now, which is probably gonna be on Patreon maybe next month, is something where you kind of explore like the Mario 64 like castle, and I'm probably just gonna bring in like my systems I built for Samurai Slaughterhouse and just put a bunch of Mario characters in, so you'll be able to like explore Peach's castle in VR. Oh no, there's another one that doesn't look like it's from Minecraft. There's a good Princess Castle VR that I have somewhere. I have it saved, but um, I'm gonna do something like that where you go there and just kill the Mario characters. But if you did want to just look at these in VR, you can just download this, drag it in Unity, and then just drag a player controller in there, and you can be walking around Princess Castle in VR, and in a matter of minutes, like or you know some Zelda or whatever else you want to find on here. Someone already beat me to making Peach's Castle in the Steam VR home. That doesn't surprise me. There's probably already a VR chat world too. There's like a VR chat world of everything. Oh, you can enter every painting. Yeah, that is super cool. Like, yeah, that's definitely beyond anything I was gonna slap together. Oh, that's crazy. All the levels are built out. Man, I gotta check that out. I feel like there's so much stuff out there in VR that like I just don't know about, especially like those little custom things like VR chat and Neos worlds and Steam VR homes. I just barely like uh scratch the surface with like a VR. What was it? Emu VR. I like that, and then the 3D Send. That one's pretty cool. So, I mean, there's just so much cool stuff on VR. I mean, you can go on Itch and just find all kinds of cool games. They got like the Attack on Titan games. It's so good. I just love it. There's just so much amazing stuff in VR. I wish there was. I mean, I guess there's. That's what makes it hard with for content creators is if they do make videos about like those random weird little obscure things that no one knows about, like they never get the views. So like it's always the views of like Beat Saber or like the new big hit title that like get the views. So that's what like the content creators have to make like their videos on. But I just wish there was a good way of sharing all those little things. I mean, I guess we do in the community, like we share all the cool stuff we find, but it would just be nice if that could be like the focus. Like every time you open up YouTube, it's just some cool, obscure, like new random thing instead of just the all the videos of the top most like popular games. That would be my like fantasy. All right, but I think we're about wrapping up time. It's been an hour. Definitely had fun. And yeah, if you guys are interested in downloading any of these games, they're on my Patreon. I'm gonna put a recording of this up on my Patreon probably this afternoon or tomorrow, and then I'll wait a few weeks just so the Patreon members get that special access, and I'll throw it up on YouTube so everyone else can watch it for free. And yeah, I had fun. And if you guys have any questions to ask me, feel free to drop it in the Discord or on Twitter. I'm always happy to answer questions, help out people getting started in development. And yeah, have a good afternoon, everyone.